CEO Ronald Hickman from Creating the Difference. Today we're going to talk about the brand new Hazmat Solid. Got my man Dustin in town. He's going to throw some shots for you today. The Hazmat Solid features the Semtex Solid reactive cover stock. From the factory, it comes 500, 2,000 grit Sire. We scanned it. It scanned at 1,000 grit. The hardness is 74. The absorption rate is extremely fast. We smelled the bowling ball. This one doesn't smell so flavorful.
Good.
Yeah, this doesn't smell so good. It smells like chemicals, like petroleum distillates. Anyway, so the core in this ball is the original, same as the original Hazmat core, which we're actually going to break that ball out for this review as well. It's a symmetrical bowling ball, has a 2.479 RG, a differential of 0.055. It's symmetrical, so there is no mass bias. Dustin's layout is 60 by 4 3/4 by 30, and we're going to let him show you exactly what this bowling ball does right now. We're bowling on our standard house condition, and Dustin's going to throw it for us and see what it does.
A little flat.
So this is going to be one of the earlier hooking pieces, right? 1,000 grit sanded, stronger bowling ball. Definitely going to be meant to complement the original Hazmat. Now, if you guys haven't watched our hammer effect video, go check that video out, because that bowling ball has a smell as well. But it definitely smells different than this ball. That was a nice shot right there. So it looks like it's on the continuous side, huh, Dustin?
Yeah, it's very continuous. Very smooth.
Yeah, smoother, continuous. That original Hazmat was more angular, right? It was more, I think it had an HK22 on it, so it definitely was going to be more angular down lane. This ball is meant to be a little bit more heavy oil friendly and give you a more smoother, continuous type shape. Looks pretty good. Watch the 10 pin. So I asked you to watch the 10 pin on purpose, because what can happen is exactly that, right? So when bowling balls tend to be early, tend to be a little bit smooth, it's very possible that you may end up seeing where, because they're smoother and they're a little bit not continuous enough, you can start to begin to leave that flat 10 pin, which is actually what happened right here. So there is a little bit of an adjustment you can make for that, right? Okay, you got that one further right. So basically, the adjustment for that 10 pin, right, is probably, Justin, when you look at that flat 10 pin, what would you typically do for a move?
I mean, I would probably either one, decrease the ball speed just a little bit, or move one to the right, just to give myself a little bit more angle into the pocket.
Yeah.
Considering I left it, what, 2 or 3 times?
Yeah.
That tells me either the ball is too early, or I'm just in the complete wrong part of the lane. But I'm gonna go with the first option and say it's just a little too early, so I'm gonna square up my angles in the front part of the lane, and that should put me where I need to be. That should be good. Ooh, I saw it and took off.
Stronger heavy oil pieces, like this ball, looks like it's becoming very quickly, can do that, right? They can be a little too early, especially when you're on a house shot. Very good shot. I do want to see you, I actually want to show them the pattern. So let me show you guys the lane pattern real quick, so you can kind of see where we're at here. There, so you can kind of see what the pattern looks like there. Essentially, the darker the blue, the more the oil. So I'm actually going to have Dustin move in and try to keep that ball in as much of the dark blue as possible. That's going to allow us to kind of see, kind of how this ball's going to perform in that heavier oil environment. Let me get the lights back on real quick so that we don't throw off crisp so much there, but I want to be in more oil. So there's more oil for sure, right? So a little bit of difference in the shape. He could obviously continue to move left. He could obviously move further left. and that ball is still going to be pretty strong. Can you move a little further left?
Yeah.
So we'll move in further left. So now we're really, really in the oil, right? Back to the flat tip pin again. So that shot was deeper in the oil, definitely was covering pretty much as much oil as possible. That's a little too deep, a little too steep.
Yeah, but it feels like, right now at least, if the angles are a little bit too open, it sees it way too early and goes forward, which gives us that flat 10 pin.
Correct. So I want you to stay right there. Let's stay right there for a moment, and let's throw the original Hazmat. Let's see what the original Hazmat does. Let me go ahead and show them one more time, just quickly kind of what the lane looks like. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to erase all of that. And we're going to have you stay right there, and we're going to throw the original Hazmat. Same core, different cover, different finish.
Closer.
She's got some back end on her.
Yeah.
Which is contrasting the Hazmat solid, which makes a lot of sense, right?
Correct.
It makes a lot of sense.
Correct.
So you're gonna get it further right, or
Yes.
what's your move?
Yes, further right.
Okay, further right. Let me clean that off. Let him throw another shot there. I know you guys can't really see the ball in the dark, so that's why we're showing you the clutch after the shot's thrown.
I mean, you can see like the difference in ball reaction right there. Like that was pretty close to the last shot with the Hazmat solid. But when that saw the friction, it saw it and went, as opposed to the Hazmat solid that saw it and kind of rolled forward.
Good. So let's throw the Hazmat there, because that does show that those balls do roll differently, and it shows the value. Throwing the Hazmat solid, it will show the value in having both bowling balls in your arsenal. So that was further right.
Steeper,
Oh, further in, steeper. Got it. And let's have him do that again. So go back to the Hazmat Pearl. Oh, basically we're gonna have you throw a Hazmat Pearl
Same,
in,
yeah.
and then throw the ball the same, because that'll be a great comparison. So we're gonna throw the Hazmat Pearl, just kind of see what it looks like when you're inside there. All right, so that gives us the Hazmat Pearl, which is, like I said, that's a different cover stock. It's a stronger, more back-ending type bowling ball than the new Hazmat Solid. But this will be good as a comparison to kind of see the difference between the two. So now we're gonna throw the Hazmat Solid. Same spot, same part of the lane, kind of see the reaction difference. So those shots aren't that far apart. So interesting, right? So the Hazmat Solid, we're seeing it to be more rolly, right? It's more rolly. It's a stronger, earlier type bowling ball, whereas the Hazmat Pearl is more back-ending, more angular.
Yep.
So they're two different types of shapes.
Right.
Both are usable given the right environment.
Correct. To me, like I would use this type of shape in the Hazmat Solid on something that's flatter and harder. That way I can control the back part of the lane and control the break point. But the Hazmat Pearl would allow me to open up the lane more once it starts to transition, and I know I need something that's going to back end a little bit more.
That makes sense. So we're back to the Hazmat Solid. So we're going to line it back up with the Hazmat Solid now.
And you can just tell right there, like as the surface begins to change, it really starts to see it down lane as opposed to when the ball was fresh. It would see it earlier and just kind of bail down lane, which makes sense because we're getting to a higher surface grid.
Yep, so let's go ahead and take that bowling ball real quick. let's do two things. One, let's look at the surface scan right now, and then let's maybe apply some of the polish on it to see kind of how it rolls then. I'm kind of curious to see two different things here. Yeah, so this ball now is scanning at 4,000 grit, which the surface is going to change as you're using it. That makes a lot of sense to me. I do want to polish it though. Let's put a little polish on it just to kind of see what that does. And we'll do it by hand. We won't do it on the ball spinner this time. We'll just do it by hand, see what we can kind of come up with. Because that's one of the things that people get confused about, right? Like they'll go, oh, I got this brand new bowling ball and it's hooking too early, or it's leaving a lot of corner pins. It's not doing what I thought it was going to do. You know, now I'm all upset and disappointed. You know, this is not good for me. But that's not true, right? A lot of times you can do a surface adjustment and be able to change the reaction of the bowling ball significantly. So Dustin, let me ask you this. So like, if you were bowling league, right? You're bowling your typical league and you have this bowling ball, or you have the other Hazmat, the Hazmat Pearl, which one are you gonna use?
I mean, for me, the shape of the Hazmat Pearl for league is better, simply because my rev rate is higher and ball speed is higher, so I can manipulate the shape down lane. In my opinion, the Hazmat Solid is just a little too early for me to throw on a house shot that hooks a lot to begin with. Now, if it's a lower speed, lower rev rate guy, and they're wondering between the two, I would say the Hazmat Solid, simply because they need something that's going to pick up earlier and be tamer down lane, just because they don't have a whole lot of ball speed to begin with.
Now, let me ask you this. You recently just went out and bowled the USBC Open Championships.
Yep.
And you actually, your guys' team is leading team all events.
Yep.
So in that particular environment, what ball would you use out there? Would you use this Hazmat Solid or would you use the Hazmat Pearl?
I would 1,000% use the Hazmat Solid on the fresh. Like I mentioned earlier, the Hazmat Solid is going to allow me to play straighter angles in the front part of the lane and really control the back part of the lane, right? Out there, the patterns are so flat, and really any tournament you go to that has a flatter pattern, you need to control the back part of the lane. And this Hazmat Solid with a fresher surface, like it comes out of the box with, will definitely help me do that.
All right, so we've been talking, doing a little bit of hand polishing.
She getting shiny.
Which, by the way, that is the benefit of this product. You can actually use it and do it by hand. So now we got a little surface change on it. We will get a couple scans here. All right, so we're at 5,000. So now let's go ahead and take it and give it another spin. I'm curious to see if now we increase the back end or if it just continues to stay kind of rolly but just gets down the lane further. Pretty good shot.
I mean, that definitely...
I think we increased the back end.
Was, yeah.
So that's interesting, right? Because not all balls do that. So not all bowling balls, when you polish them, increases the back end. There's a fair amount of bowling balls that you can polish them and they just push down the lane further before they make the move, which means they end up being longer and way smoother. This ball isn't one of them, which just shows the versatility of the cover stock, which is good. If you have one of these bowling balls and you're like, man, it's too early, too much more aggressive, obviously adjusting the surface could be a big impact in changing the shape of the reaction.
Yeah, I mean, that shape it's totally different. Even, you know, as we were getting up in that higher surface range, that's a totally different shape.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think you're gonna leave any more flat 10 pins.
No, we might be in that 9-pin range now.
Right.
So I'll bump in just a little bit, see if we can get to the pocket.
Yeah, I mean, that's 1,000 times better now.
2 and 1.
So I mean, it just shows you the versatility of the ball and of the cover stock and why it's important to have the right surface on your ball. We're gonna do one more thing. Give me that bowling ball back. People are gonna be like, what is he doing? I'm gonna grab 1,000 grit True Cut sanding pad. A little bit of conditioner. We're going to sand this ball back.
So you asked me what would I do in league. What's your opinion just by seeing the ball motion of the Hazmat Pearl and the solid? What is your thought process if you were to bowl league with this?
Yeah, so the typical league bowler, I think, it's kind of similar to you, right? The typical league bowler is going to need this bowling ball. If you're going to have this one, the Hazmat solid, you're going to need to polish it. If you got the Hazmat, if you have the option of both of them, I'm probably going to throw the original one, just because you're going to be able to create a little more room for error, a little more area. The problem is, eventually, that bowling ball more than likely will either become too much in terms of like back ending and erratic, and or you're going to need to be able to have something that's just not as much total hook. So I would end up having to ball down to something else.
Yeah.
Even in league, right?
Yep.
Now, obviously, like I said, I agree too with the tournament situation. That's a little bit different. And people they don't really think about that. Most of the people that are watching this video are actually going to be the league bowler, and they're going to get this bowling ball, and they're not going to want to change the surface. But I really wanted to kind of show people what happens if you do take the time to get the surface right for the environment that you're bowling on.
Right.
All right, so now I've sanded the ball, right? And now we're gonna put a little gloss on it.
Now, if you had somebody come to you and was like, Ron, I got an arsenal, or I want to build an arsenal, and it's the Hazmat Pearl, Hazmat Solid, and a spare ball, what would you say to them and why?
So if you only got those 3 bowling balls, first off, and you're building an arsenal, what are you doing, bro? Like, what's wrong with you? But if those are the only 3 you've got, then I'm going to say that let's take the advantages of both those bowling balls and try to expand it as much as possible.
Right.
The Hazmat Solid we're going to keep at 1,000 grit because it's going to give us that stronger, earlier type performance that we're seeing currently right now when it's dull. The Hazmat Pearl, we're going to polish it up. We're going to make sure it's nice and shiny. Therefore, you've got 2 distinct ball motions, one that's very early, one that's shiny to give us the range. And then when we go to the event, we're gonna have all the sanding pads, we're gonna have all the products that we make because you never know what you're gonna actually need, right? That's kind of why I wanted to do this. So taking this ball back down to 1,000 and then applying gloss to it is gonna give us, again, another reaction. I'm just curious to see if this reaction is useful. Now, obviously, that first shot you throw in that same location is going to be probably a very different reaction than what you've had before, even though it's back to 1,000 grit. The gloss is not a polish, right? It's actually meant to make the bowling ball perform more like a urethane ball, so we're going to lose some performance for sure.
It's a little different.
Yeah, just a little bit, right? So let's just go ahead and show. So you can see those shots were all thrown about the exact same, but obviously they don't roll the same. So you'll now be able to square up with it, right? You'll be able to square up with that bowling ball. And then we'll see if that allows us to be able to not have the early hook that we had before, but still be able to get something usable out of the back end of the shape. What'd you think of that?
I mean, control the lane, that's for sure. On this next one, so that was a 4 and 2. It might have been a little in, so it necessarily didn't get to the friction as early. So I'm going to stand in the same spot, but I'm actually going to try to get it just a little bit further to the right.
Okay.
I think there's enough free friction to the right to where I can shape this ball, but still have it be controllable.
Okay.
I mean, definitely controllable.
More controllable, for sure. So basically, I mean, we've taken this one bowling ball, we've made it 3 pretty quickly.
Yeah. I mean, and you can do that with any bowling ball. Just because, this ball comes out of the box with
Thousands.
surface on it,
Yeah.
doesn't mean that we can't polish it, because we polished it and it looked great.
Correct.
They look really good. So, really for everybody watching, like if you have a ball that comes out of the box with polish, don't be afraid to, test it out. Go bowl 3 games, and we've done 3 surface changes in a game and a half.
Right.
You can learn a lot about your stuff like that real quick.
Give us one more shot, Dustin. Actually, let me sand it back down, because that's how it comes from the factory at 1,000, or factory grit is close to 1,000 grit. So let's go ahead and sand it back, get it to kind of the way it was from the factory, and then we will get a good shot, and we'll wrap it up. Hopefully you guys like this video, man. Give us some comments if you do, if you like this format. Something we're trying a little bit different, trying to give the people what they want. Tell us what your favorite surface is on your bowling ball. All right, so now we got it back to its original surface scan grid of 1,000. She's back. All right, now you got more information about the new Hammer Hazmat saw. Go to our website, click on the 3 little lines, ctdbowling.com. You'll see an option to pop up to be able to purchase this bowling ball. You can get a free sanding pad with the purchase of the bowling ball. Consider joining our staff. Our staff's free to join. We talk about this type of bowling ball and all bowling balls and ball reaction all the time in our staff group. So on behalf of Dustin Zaner, I am CEO Ronald Dicklin. Talk to you soon.